Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
The wife decided to create a new novel for her needs, but her husband turned out to be no slouch and did the following. Today's story has a similar plot. Enjoy watching it. I was sitting on a stool at my favorite bar after work, sipping the only beer I could afford, while waiting for the bowling alley next door to open. At the other end of the bar sat a very beautiful brunette, trying to catch my eye. Finally, Sam the bartender put another beer in front of me, but I refused it. "It's not on the house, Ted. It's from the lady at the end of the bar," he said. "Thank her for me and give her the money back. You can put it on my account and pour it out to someone, or do whatever you want with it," I said. A few minutes later, the brunette came and sat on the stool next to me. Her face was beautiful, and her eyes were clear. "You probably shouldn't be sitting here," I said, then took another sip of beer. "Not accepting the beer I bought for you wasn't very nice," she said. "Is there some reason why you don't love me?" "I'm fine with you, I just don't know you. I have trust issues with women. My life isn't complicated right now, and I like it that way. If you stay in this bar any longer, there'll be another guy who can buy you a beer. Perhaps he will be nicer, younger, richer, and more handsome than me." "What if I just choose you?" she asked. "It's not going to happen, so why bother?" I asked her. "You don't know anything about me, so how can you say that we can't even be friends?" she asked in response. "Let's take a look," I said, turning to look at her. "You are between 25 and 30 years old, educated, have a good job, have a good body and want to show it off but are afraid because of a few minor imperfections that bother you. You are married and trying to cheat on your husband, or recently divorced. You're conservative, but you like to think you're a little wild." I paused and tilted my head slightly to the left before continuing. "In fact, you are much wilder than you think. You just need someone to bring this wild girl to the surface. Your ex or current husband was or is much older than you, and I remind you of either him or someone else." "How many did I guess?" "Almost everything," she said. "My husband died a little over a year ago. I finally stopped wearing the ring a week ago. By the end of our relationship, there was no love left between us, but when he got sick, I had to stay and take care of him until the end, at least out of respect. Then when he passed, although as you hinted, I felt like he was holding me back, I just couldn't bring myself to look for someone else so soon after his death. But when I saw you, you reminded me so much of my first boyfriend, whom I left to marry my ex. Now I'm back at work, doing a job that I thought I would enjoy, but now I'm not sure about it. What about you?" she asked. "You seem pretty young to decide to be alone for the rest of your life. Don't you have needs?" "I thought all men had urges. And when I look at you, I don't see the tough, hardened scoundrel you pretend to be," she said. "I see a true romantic. I think you've been hurt, so you're trying to build a wall around yourself. But it's not to keep people away from you. You think I think this is so as not to be offended again. So, what made you like this?" I raised my beer so the bartender could see it. "Play it again, Sam, and maybe you'd better get the lady some too." Sam brought us fresh drinks, and I began my story. "Perhaps you're right about the romantic side, but I don't want it to spread. I don't really see myself as a romantic. I see myself more as a fool because I was really deceived about a year ago. I was happily married to my dream girl, Ellie, but that dream turned into a nightmare on national TV, so almost everyone knows what a fool I was. I met Ellie about 6 years ago at a party, and it was love at first sight. I know some people don't believe in it, but when I saw her, I became a believer. She was the most beautiful girl in the world. She had flaming red hair and beautiful green eyes, cat-like and so expressive that I could always tell what mood she was in just by their expression. She had a mouth that begged to be kissed, and she tasted like strawberries. She had a lot of freckles and only weighed about 43 kilograms wet. She had the most beautiful and shapely legs in all of creation, and a cute little fifth place. She didn't have much on top, and neither did her breasts, but damn, how I loved that woman. Within a year of our meeting, we got married. I was an engineer at a large manufacturing company that produced suspension components and ball joints for several major automakers. Ellie was a part-time waitress and became a stay-at-home mom after we got married. Our plan was to live together for a while and enjoy life before starting to have children. It was because her sister and brother-in-law got married after he got her pregnant, and their life was hell. They were constantly arguing about everything, and we just wanted to be smarter than Ellie's sister and brother-in-law. A couple of cousins here and there were all the family she had. They lived in a trailer park about 5 miles away from us. In fact, she lived with them until we got married. I think they were glad we got married because not only could they come and use our pool whenever they wanted, but it also gave them more space in the trailer. When Ellie moved out, Ellie and her sister Sally were inseparable. Whenever I could find Ellie, all I had to do was call Sally or walk into the trailer, and there she was. Most evenings when I came home from work, Ellie, Sally, and Sally's husband Billy were in my living room. Ellie and Sally were connoisseurs of that great American art form, daytime trash TV. They lived and died for Jerry Springer, Judge Judy, The People's Court, and of course, The Maury Show. I never shared a taste for this form of entertainment, burdened as I was with work and all that, but I was glad that Ellie had something that gave her pleasure and protected her from loneliness when we were apart. She usually had dinner on the table when I got home, and after dinner, we would just sit back and do things together. We both loved seeing new places and discovering new things while exploring. Ellie simply loved seeing the scenery, and I loved driving my Arctic White 2008 Mustang GT/CS convertible. For those who don't know, this is a California Special GT convertible. This car and Ellie were competing for my attention, so having them both on the road together was a dream come true for me. The car had a cherry bomb exhaust system that, although it violated California emission standards, sounded great. There were also drilled and splined brake discs, the brake calipers were painted Arctic white to match the body, and all the windows and lights were tinted. I still adore this car, but back to Ellie. Ellie was irrepressible in bed. She was always excited and ready for action. If we were at a party with all our friends, she would excuse herself so we could check the bushes, and we would do that in our bed. She exhausted me. Nothing was off limits with her. Her legs in 5th place were, as I said, amazing. It was unusual for us not to have a night at least once a day, even after 5 years of marriage. If it weren't for Sally, none of this would have happened. I have nothing against Sally, she is an attractive woman in her own right and has the truest heart of any woman I know. She looks like Ellie, only a few years older, a little taller, and a little fuller. Sally is also blonde and has some pretty decent breasts. Unfortunately, her skin looks worn out and is sagging in some places, probably due to her lifelong on-air viewing and her 5 children. Sally had dropped hints to me a couple of times, and before this whole situation, I really thought she was doing it as a test, to see if I would cheat on her sister if given the opportunity. Of course, I refused both times, and life was good. This continued until about a year ago when Sally and Billy began arguing a lot more than usual. These arguments weren't their usual where they would yell at each other for a while and then make up. These arguments became longer and spread to others. Finally, Sally decided to go with the most reputable agency she could think of. I thought they were going to a marriage counselor, but of course, I was wrong. Sally contacted The Maury Show and was invited to an episode about cheating. Sally arranged for Billy to take a lie detector test on national TV to find out if he was cheating on her. She also suspected that he had cheated with several women and impregnated one of the girls at the trailer park. Of course, Billy maintained that he was completely innocent, and Sally was simply upset that, at 30, she was getting a little older and wanted to keep him. The girl she suspected of cheating with Billy also went on the show. She lived in the same trailer park and was only 19 years old. It seemed like a circus to me, and I laughed about the whole situation. I was pretty sure Billy was guilty, but I kept it to myself. I wished them luck and promised to videotape the show so we could all watch it together in the future. That night, somewhere between one of those incredible intim sessions, Ellie challenged me. She wanted to go to Connecticut to tap the show too. Not only did she want to go, but she felt like she needed to do it in the event that Billy did cheat or was found guilty of something bad. Sally would need support. Of course, it was also her chance of a lifetime to see her favorite show being produced and recorded. This was her dream vacation, but since she was not part of the case or the episode, the network would not pay for her flight or hotel stay. But I assured her that it would not be a problem for us. Then I found out that she expected me to take a few days off and go too. There was no chance she would fly to another state, leaving me home alone. She told me that, of course, she trusted me, but she didn't want me to be tempted to go to clubs and meet easy women while she was away. She was sure that too much free time had gotten Billy into trouble. I suggested that maybe Billy just needed a job, but she just laughed. Plus, she reminded me that in our 5 years of marriage, we had never gone without night unless one of us was sick or injured, and she wasn't about to start now. So, a few days later, we all flew out to Stamford, Connecticut, to tape the show. We were met at the airport by the show's assistant producer. Ellie and I went straight to our hotel, while the show went to a production meeting to discuss what they would need to do the next day for the taping. As soon as we got to our hotel room, Ellie was jumping up and down on the bed, pretending not to look at me. I felt her gaze boring into my back as I unpacked our suitcases. "Isn't that what a woman should do?" I asked. "I'll show you what a woman should do." My boxers, which had various Mustang badges on them, followed them to the floor. We almost started having night. Sally said loudly, entering the room without knocking. "If you had waited a few more minutes, sister, you would have caught us having wild and intim," Ellie said mockingly. "Why are you here? Shouldn't you be at the studio? They need Billy more than I do. He needs to take a lie detector test." All I had to do was answer a few questions and write down a little segment about what I thought he was doing. "They actually wanted more from that girl than from me," she said, looking at Ellie, who was lying on the bed with bewilderment. "Do you think Billy is really cheating on me?" she asked. Ellie didn't answer, she just squeezed my hand tighter. I think we both knew the answer to this question. I was sure from Ellie's unspoken reaction that she thought Billy was probably cheating on her sister. "Honey, I can't tell if your husband is cheating on you, but we are sisters. We will be there for each other in everything. If he cheats on you and you decide to kick the cheater to hell, I am on your side in everything you need. If you and the kids need to stay with Ted and me for a while, we have plenty of room." Then she curled up next to me and snuggled into my side like a cat. "Ellie, you are truly lucky to have someone who loves you as much as Ted does. I can't imagine him ever cheating on you. Can I tell you a secret?" she said quietly. "I already know," Ellie said. "You tested him a couple of times by trying to show him your big old breasts to see if he would cheat on me if he got the chance. He told me both times. I also know that you would never have gone through with it if he gave in. You love Billy too much to ever cheat on him. So, if he really cheated, would you take him back?" "Probably, eventually. But he's going to have to make some changes in our lives. He's going to have to agree to never cheat on me again, and if he does, we're done. And he's going to have to at least try to find a job. We've been living in this damn trailer too long, and we have too many kids to cram into it. It's simply unfair to put children in such conditions, but we've been together for so long that I don't know how to live without him. No one is perfect, men make mistakes sometimes, so I don't see the point in ruining our marriage over this. But he has to change." Ellie gently squeezed my hand again and began to purr lightly. I lightly kissed her forehead while Sally watched. "You really love her, don't you?" she asked. I nodded my head and smiled. "You guys are not like me and Billy. Sometimes it seems to me that we are together only because we have been together for so long that we don't know how to do anything else. But you love my skinny, flat-chested little sister." I had no idea. She stood up and returned to her room. "I'm glad she's finally gone," Ellie whispered, pulling the blanket over herself. "And by the way, I love you too. Until death separates us." The next morning, we all had breakfast together before recording. I immediately noticed two things. First, Sally got her hair done and transformed. She looked fantastic, or at least fantastic for Sally. Billy, on the other hand, looked like he hadn't slept at all last night. He looked at Sally as if he was really afraid of losing her. Marilyn, the supposed other woman he slept with, was not with us, but when we were only 19, we didn't think she would want it. We all rode in the limo they sent. Billy, Sally, and Marilyn went one way, and Ellie and I went the other. When we got to the studio, the production complex was a large warehouse-like building with sets from the TV show in the center. Around it were observation rooms, conference rooms, locker rooms, and areas used for other purposes around the set. Of course, there were cameras and all sorts of guys running around with headphones and setting up who knows what. At the back was a recording booth where technicians controlled camera angles and audio recording levels. Producers, directors, tourists, and security guards drifted in and out of madness as we watched the show. Each segment only seemed to take a few minutes. I've seen the show a few times when I was homesick or on vacation. I really thought we could come here for the recording and go back to the hotel for some serious intimate in an hour or two. We were there for 3 hours before they even started filming our segment. Sally was in the middle of the 3 parts of the show they were filming that day. The first was a girl who claimed that her neighbor's husband had gotten her pregnant. He was a Protestant minister and claimed that as a man of God, he would never commit the sin of adultery. He and his wife spat all sorts of vitriol at the girl, arguing that she was a woman of ill repute and her words meant nothing against the words of a good Christian minister and his godly wife. The preacher failed a lie detector test, and DNA proved he was the child's father. The preacher's wife attacked him and the girl on stage and had to be restrained. The best part of the segment was how Maury, who was actually taller than you think, announced it. The minister, whose wife was already angry with him for failing a lie detector test, looked nervous. It was almost as if he was silently asking God to change the DNA test results. He tried to hold his wife's hand, but she couldn't. He knew that if the child was proven to be his marriage and career would be over. His wife was very excited and, narrowing her eyes, looked from her husband to the girl. The girl, on the contrary, relaxed, leaning back in her chair as if she didn't care. It was as if she knew what she did was wrong but remained calm as the truth came out, and also because she would have proof of paternity and the legal right to collect child support for her child, and this would make her life a little less hellish. Under the glare of the bright studio lights, the entire room fell silent as Maury said, "In the case of 10-month-old Amber Marie." He then paused for effect and stretched for a moment before continuing, "Reverend Preacher, you are the father." The former man of God immediately jumped up and ran out of the room backstage, with his wife following behind him, screaming about divorcing his cheating 5th place on stage. The mother of his beloved child jumped up and began to do her victory dance, which was impressive. The audience loved it, and I even found myself getting carried away by it. Ellie elbowed me in the ribs and said I didn't need to stare at that little M, when I already had someone who could dance better for me alone. Then Sally came out and sat in one of the chairs on the set. She was talking to Maury. She told him that she and Billy had been together for 7 years and had 5 children. She talked about how they lived in a trailer and how he never had a job, but she still loved him. Naturally, viewers applauded her for standing by her man no matter what situation they were in. Then she started talking about how their nightlife had been going downhill lately, and she had heard rumors that Billy was cheating on her and that he might even have gotten one of the other women at the trailer park pregnant. The audience hissed and began to frown, although no one actually prompted them to do so. They then showed Billy on the monitor in his taped interview. Billy said he was always faithful to Sally, and it upset him that she would even think he would ever cheat on her. Sally and their children were his life, and if she forced him to take a lie detector test, it would mean she didn't trust him, and he would seriously consider ending their marriage. The crowd booed him, but Sally looked a little unsure. I knew she loved Billy and wanted him back, no matter what. She wanted his behavior to be examined, and she wanted to let him know that she was not stupid, but the thought of divorcing him was never on the menu. Next to me, Ellie started talking about how that cheating idiot deserved everything he got if he got that M pregnant. She squeezed my hand and went backstage to calm Sally while the technicians moved Marilyn's chair. Then Marilyn came on stage. The audience booed as much at Billy's tape. She sat down and immediately began talking about how Billy had an intim not only with her but with several women in the trailer park. She wasn't in love with Billy, but she also wanted him to get a job and start paying child support to help care for his last child. She actually told Sally she was sorry for what she did, but Billy told her that he and Sally were going to get a divorce anyway. She claimed she was 2,000% sure her baby was fathered by Billy. I'm confused because outside of trailer parks, you can only have 100%. Marilyn's statement, of course, made Sally cry, and Maury had to console her. To my surprise, Ellie ran onto the stage and hugged her sister, trying to console her. "That cheater isn't worth it," Ellie said. I knew we had to record this episode because it was Ellie's dream. We would probably watch it every day for the rest of our lives. Then they finally brought Billy out. I felt sorry for him as he walked down the ramp onto the stage. It took a lot of courage to walk down this corridor of people who so clearly hated him without ever knowing him or speaking to him. There wasn't a single kind face in the audience for Billy. Even Marilyn, who was equally at fault, received much more support, or at least less anger, than poor Billy. Maury started asking Billy questions, and Billy denied everything. He denied ever cheating on Sally, he denied ever having an intimate at all, and he denied not having a job. He claimed that he was simply unemployed. I expected him to refuse even to acknowledge his name. He claimed he did not know Marilyn personally but had heard about her from some of his friends, and that she was an approachable girl. She jumped up and rushed across the stage, hissing and waving her fists at him. Sally jumped in to defend Billy. For some reason, I guess just because she was mad at him didn't mean she would let some other woman beat up her man. Ellie, of course, intervened to help her sister, and the guards had to separate them all. With passions running high and the show becoming more like Jerry Springer than Maury, it was time for Maury to read out the DNA test results. In the case of 3-month-old Stephen, Maury began, "Billy, you are not the father." Marilyn jumped into the air, crying and screaming that the test was wrong, and ran off the stage. This time, it was Billy who breathed a sigh of relief and began dancing on stage. "We still have the lie detector test results to read," Maury said. The audience, still thirsty for scandal or blood, fell silent again. "We asked Billy if he ever had a night with Marilyn," Maury said. Billy said no. "Our lie detector test said it was a lie, and he had an intimate with her over 10 times. Billy began to claim that the test was wrong. Sally jumped up and hit him in the face so hard that it echoed throughout the studio. Ellie pulled her back to her seat. "We asked Billy if he had ever had a night with any other woman outside of marriage, except Marilyn," Maury said. He said no. "Our lie detector test showed that it was a lie. There were over 5 other women and over 50 cases." Sally was now crying so hard that Ellie had to hold her up. Billy dropped his head to his knees and begged Marilyn to stop reading the results. The audience screamed for more, and Maury, despite his apparent concern for Sally, simply continued to read question after question. Each new revelation seemed to hit both Billy and Sally harder and harder, but Maury continued to read the remaining results. I felt sorry for both Billy and Sally, but I couldn't help but want to laugh because the whole situation seemed unreal. Suddenly, Sally jumped up and started screaming at Billy. The rage in her eyes made Maury jump to the side. "You an idiot," she screamed. I knew it would be bleeped so that viewers at home wouldn't actually hear it but would know exactly what she said. "Who are they? I want to know who these women were that were more important to you than your own children. Because I'm done with you." Sally screamed furiously. "Yes, you're a creep." Ellie screamed. "You shouldn't talk, Ellie," Billy said, and my world started to shrink because I knew what he would say before he said it. Like rain following the first loud roar on a sunny day, the words sounded. Billy looked at my wife and said, "Because we both know one of those women was you." The audience suddenly fell silent, and you could hear a pin drop. The cameras all panned to Ellie and then back to Sally for her reaction. "No," Ellie shouted slowly and looked at me from across the room, but I could tell by the look in her eyes that it was true. "If you don't believe me, ask your lie detector man," Billy said. "They asked me if I had an intimate with anyone in your family." Sally attacked Ellie and started hitting her. Ellie was too busy looking for me to even try to defend herself, but it was too late. Unnoticed, I slowly walked out of the studio. I left the building and got into a taxi to go back to the hotel. In the studio, Maury's team quickly canceled the next segment to devote more time to the triangle of Sally, Ellie, and Billy. I heard later that Ellie repeatedly asked about me and where I was and was told that I was backstage to cool off. I truly believe they lied to her to keep her there and stop her from doing something stupid. They called me repeatedly on my cell phone and at the hotel. I just didn't answer. They wanted me to go back into the studio and discuss the collapse of my marriage on television. I checked out of the hotel within an hour and headed to the airport, although my flight home was not scheduled until 2 days later to allow time for editing the segment and possible additional filming. I was able to change my ticket and leave within 90 minutes. In the studio, Maury's team convinced Ellie, Sally, and Billy to return to the stage. The audience was intrigued, their attention was riveted to the stage. Sally told Ellie and Billy that she never wanted to see them again. Billy begged for forgiveness and vowed that he would never touch another woman in his life again. He admitted that he needed help because, like Tiger Woods, he was a night addict. A counselor from Maury's team volunteered to find him an intimate addiction therapy group in our area, and they convinced Ellie that for the good of their children, who needed a father in their lives, she should give him another chance. It took a few days, but they also convinced Sally to forgive Ellie, who was unhappy. Of course, I didn't find out about it for about a week, and frankly, I didn't care. As soon as I returned home, I called a lawyer and began divorce proceedings. It wasn't easy, and I cried a lot, but I did it. Luckily, we lived in a state with no-fault divorce laws, so there was no need to prove anything. If necessary, I had a recording of the show, which could serve as excellent evidence of both her infidelity and my subsequent humiliation on national television. Because I wanted the divorce to be quick, I agreed to split all of our assets in half. The only difference was that she got the house by giving up any rights to my future earnings or retirement pay. This should have been easy. I asked my lawyer to have the bailiff serve her with the divorce papers at the airport because of the same type of weird morbid curiosity that makes people gawk at crashes, motorcycle stunts, and NASCAR races. I found myself watching from afar. My lawyer stood next to me, and we were both shocked when my soon-to-be ex-wife, weighing less than 45 kilograms, tore the documents into pieces and began trying to attack the bailiff. She just lost her temper, and they had to call security. My lawyer and I snuck out of the airport and returned to his office for the meeting. "This woman is crazy," he told me. "Perhaps I should get an order of protection or a restraining order for you." "Don't worry about it," I said. "I have temporarily moved into a hotel and am looking for a new house or apartment in another suburb." "Yeah, but you still work in the same place, and you have that almost neon white Mustang." "You won't be hard to find," he said, shaking his head. So, I took a couple of weeks off, but I couldn't give up my car. I used this time to find a new home. It wasn't as nice as the old one, but I had too many memories of Ellie in that house to ever go back there. When I returned to work, Ellie was already waiting for me in the parking lot. "Ted, I'm sorry. Please forgive me," she said. "You should come home. I don't think I can live without you." I walked past her. "Ted, at least talk to me. I swear this will never happen again. I love you, always have." "I don't need Billy," she cried. "He doesn't cost me anything." Suddenly, I couldn't bear it. I turned around and said sharply to her, "Don't say that because you know it's not true. Billy must cost you a lot because he was worth more than me, all my love for you, our marriage, our life together, our children we could have had, and our future. So maybe you should go back and sleep with him a couple more times to fully make up for what you lost. Don't come back here again, Ellie. I don't want you anymore. See if you have anything to tell me, speak through my lawyer." "Ted," Sally forgave Billy. "Remember when you and her were talking in our hotel room and you thought I was asleep? She told you then that she and Billy didn't love each other as much as we loved each other. If she can forgive him, and he cheated on her many more times and with many more people than I cheated on you, why can't you forgive me just once? I swear to you, this will never happen again. I will get on my knees and beg you right now if necessary. You can't just throw away 5 years of happiness, okay, Ellie?" I said, "Stand on your knees." She sat down in front of me and people started looking at us. "Please, come back, Ted, don't divorce me." "I love you," she said. "No," I said, and entered the building. That evening, I stayed at work a little longer than usual. When I left the building, I was still on guard. As I approached my Mustang, I noticed an old pickup truck parked next to it. I looked around for Ellie and saw Sally sitting in the pickup truck. "Ted, I know she hurt you badly," she began. "No one knows how much it hurts better than me. Billy has done this to me more than once, and I swear he knows this time will be the last time I will take him back. My children are better off without a father than with someone who cheats and has other children with other women in our own area, especially with someone who can't find a job anywhere or do anything. But, as it may, no matter how offended I am, I still took him back because, in my own way, I know he loves me. It may not be as intense or as fairy tale-like as you and my sister, but love of any form is so rare that it matters. He may not be the best man in town or even in our trailer park, but he is mine. When I think of all the people out there alone who would die to have someone in their life, it makes forgiving him just a little bit easier. People aren't perfect, Ted. We're all subject to lapses in judgment, mistakes, and just plain stupid mistakes. But when you really love someone, you have to look past those human flaws sometimes. Less than a month ago, I was sure that you were ready to sell your soul for my little sister. I find it hard to believe that you could turn it all off so quickly. What about all the time you put into this marriage? Was that all in vain? How about for better or worse until death do us part? I don't want to take up all your time here, but there are 3 more things I'd like you to think about. First, this girl loves you like no one else, and she's in a lot of pain right now. She knows she messed up, and it will take a while for you both to get back to where you were, but she wants this more than anything because, you are her world. Secondly, it's not like she actually had an affair. That's Billy's question. He'll sleep with anyone who isn't nailed down. She's not trying to replace you or fall in love with someone else. She doesn't love Billy. It was just a night, just something to keep herself occupied while you weren't with her. It didn't mean anything to either of them. Damn, I had to forgive them both. You only need to forgive Ellie. The last thing I want to say is, no matter what you decide to do, please just talk to her. She knows she hurt you, and it's killing her. This girl thinks the sun rises and sets around you, and she hurts you. It may not even matter to you, but at least give her a chance to apologize and to be honest. Ted, I think it would be helpful for you too because you don't look very happy either. She then hugged me and got back into the truck and drove away. That night, I thought about everything that had happened in my life since I met Ellie. I was thinking about how much I loved and how happy we were right up until the moment I found out what she was doing. I was really happy. I realized that I still didn't know how or why she did it. If I had no intention of going back to her, these things didn't matter. But if there was even a tiny chance of saving our marriage, these things became important. The next morning, I called Sally. Billy answered the phone, and as soon as I heard his voice, I hung up. Less than 2 minutes later, my phone rang. Honey, did you call to talk to me? Ellie asked excitedly. Well, I hope. I began. Yes, she interrupted sharply. What? I asked. Whatever it takes to get us back together, I will do, she said. I know I screwed up big time, and I swear I'll never do it again, but I'll do or say whatever it takes if it means you can give me another chance. What I wanted to say was that I wanted to talk to Sally, I said. Oh, she replied, her mood visibly dropping when she found out that I had not called to talk to her. Ted, did I actually tell you that I'm really sorry or that I miss you so much that I can't stand it? Did you know that I feel empty, like there's just a hole inside of me? She said quietly. I'm sure Billy will find something to fill it with, I said coldly. Look, I didn't actually call to talk to you. Why aren't you home anyway? Can I just talk to Sally? Sally isn't here. She had to go to school to talk to one of the kids' teachers. And when you say my house, if you mean our house, it just isn't home without you in it. I can't bear to be there and feel that you should be with me. Why would you even talk to my sister? Maybe I don't need this anymore, Ellie. I actually wanted to talk to her about what she said last night. It suddenly dawned on me that I don't know why you slept with Billy or if anyone more. I also wanted to ask her how she manages to forgive this worthless idiot over and over again because I kind of wanted to think about the possibility of talking to you again. But if you were really upset about what you did, you wouldn't be there alone in this house with this idiot right now, would we? There's no hope for us, Ellie. I can see it now. Just sign the papers and let's move on. There was a big knock, followed by Ellie screaming and crying, and I just hung up. Sally called me about an hour later. Her voice was very tense, and I could tell she was angry. Ted, why did you call her just to bully her? She asked. I know she hurt you, but I thought you were an adult here. She's worse now than she was before you talked to her. I had to give her something to make her sleep, Sally. I didn't call her, I called to talk to you. Billy answered the phone, so I hung up. Ellie called me back a couple of minutes later, and I told her I only wanted to talk to you. I wasn't ready to talk yet with her, but as she started talking, I started to think that maybe there was a chance. I spoke slowly and in a calm voice, hoping to calm Sally down. "Sally, what time is it? Do you have to pick up the kids from school?" I asked. "At 3:30, she replied. "Why?" "I want to talk to you about all this." "So, put on a nice dress and let's have lunch. You're still my sister-in-law, right?" I asked. "I don't have a nice dress," she said sadly. "Okay, then just meet me at the mall," I said. "North entrance in 40 minutes and put on makeup like you did for more show." When Sally arrived at the mall, she looked great. Her lips were slightly darker than their natural pink color, her eyes were lined subtly, even the foundation was so light that the freckles she shared with her sister were visible through it. Her long, dirty blonde hair was pulled back away from her face and looked truly elegant. It almost made me wish I had fallen in love with her instead of Ellie. However, her clothes did not match her makeup and hair. "Why did you make me put on makeup like an approachable girl just so we could have lunch at the mall?" she asked. "We won't have lunch at the mall," I said. "We're just meeting here." I took her hand and led her to a women's clothing store. I asked her to try on 3 or 4 dresses. The third, a floral print in gray with a black pattern, was the one I settled on. The dress emphasized her figure and hid the changes that had occurred to her after the birth of 5 children. The front was cut low enough to show off her large breasts, but not so low as to show how low they hung. I suggested to the seller that I also buy a new bra, stockings, and shoes. Sally went back to the fitting room, and when she came out, the change was drastic. The new bra ensured that her breasts were not only visible but also presented, her waist was also accentuated, and the higher heel not only improved her legs but the change in how she had to walk on them even made her but look better. "Ted, I thought we were going to talk about my sister, not play dress up," Sally said weakly. "Take everything," I said, handing my card to the seller. "And she'll wear it now. We're going to talk about your sister and me." I told Sally, "But I want us to have a nice dinner at a nice restaurant and relax. There are things I just need to ask you." The location I chose was just around the corner from the mall. It was a great place for steaks. This was also Ellie's favorite restaurant. I booked a table for both of us. Sally looked around, and people looked back at her. I don't think she had any idea how beautiful she was. She deserved it. I was just happy that I could give her one day away from everything she had to deal with every day. "Sally, you've talked to both of them over the past 3 weeks. I know it couldn't have been easy for you. How did you find the strength to not only forgive them both, but put it behind you and move on?" I asked her. "I love your sister. I've loved her since the first day I met her. Sometimes I feel like my heart beats only for her, but at the same time, I'm furious with her. I can't bring myself to talk to her. Every time I talk to her, I get so angry that I want to explode. One minute I'm thinking about how good it would be to hold her again, and the next, I'm thinking about wrapping my hands around her throat. I know you love Billy, but I can never be in the same room with him again without thinking about killing him. Even if somehow, and this is a big if, Ellie and I can save our marriage, things will have to change. There will be no more Christmas or holiday gatherings, no more backyard barbecues, or you coming over to swim and have fun. You and the children are, of course, always welcome, but Billy will never be able to set foot in my house again, and I will not come to you unless you kick him out. It's obvious, but I just can't find the strength you have within me, no matter how much I love him. I was hoping that maybe you heard from them how it started, when, and how many people she deceived, and probably why. It would also be good to know. And then, like I said, I really want to know how the hell you were able to put aside what this is doing to you and just get on with your life." Sally took another piece of steak and looked at her plate. She pretended not to notice the tears on my face, and I pretended not to notice her. "Ted, I'm not as strong as you think. It hurts me badly every time," she said. "When we went on the show, I already knew that I would take him back. I was ready to be angry if he got that girl pregnant, but I was still going to take him back. I was ready for him to cheat on me with several different women, but damn, I had no idea that Ellie would be one of them. It hurt me a lot. I was even more angry at Billy and very angry at Ellie. But as for Billy, I still wanted him back." She put down her knife and fork and leaned towards me. Ted, my mom died when Ellie and I were 7, and her dad cheated on her for as many years as I can remember. At 9, this seemed like a common question I asked my mom before she died. I asked her, "Mom, where's Dad?" She was just sad and told me that he was with his other woman and his other children. When she died, Ellie and I were just raising ourselves. We learned a lot of things the hard way about what we should and shouldn't do, but we learned. I think I'm a little like my mom. I may not like the way Billy is, but I still hope he changes or grows out of it as he gets older. He's not a bad person or cruel. He has never hit me or the kids, not even in anger. But he just can't keep his Johnson under control. I think sometimes when I look at my kids, I wish they had a father who could go to hell, work, and bring home some money. Or wish that we have a nice house and things. But when I look at these children, I see his smile in each of them. He's a part of every child I have. So I just don't see how I could kick him out. I promise to love him through thick and thin, so I have to take the bad with the good. As for Ellie, there are still a couple of times a day I just want to reach out and hit her. I ask myself how she could do that to me. I would never do that. Even when I was fooling around with you, trying to see if you would accept me if I offered you a little of myself, I knew you would never do this. You love Ellie too much, and Ted, whether you know it or not, this is why you're having such a hard time. It's because you love her so much. If you didn't love her, we wouldn't be talking about this. You'd just get a divorce and try to do it without leaving her a dime. Right now, it's all still raw and fresh, and you're still in a lot of pain. The anger you feel is overriding love. It'll take a while for everything to balance out, and then we'll know how everything will work out. If the anger comes out, you probably won't take her back, and it could kill my sister or send her abroad. But if love wins, it will be even harder because you are going to get her back, and your pride is hurt, so it will be a struggle, a difficult one. But I truly believe that those people I saw in that hotel room 3 weeks ago will not let what they had die. I reached across the table, took Sally's hand, and kissed it. We walked out of the restaurant, and I couldn't help but glance at Sally's long legs stretched out in the front seat of my Mustang. I dropped her off near the truck so she could pick up the kids. I hated what I did to Sally, but I should have known. I later learned that she caused quite a stir at her children's school, especially when she returned to the trailer park. As soon as she entered, Ellie jumped up and asked where she had been. Billy couldn't take his eyes off her, and he was angry too. "You can both relax," Sally said. "I went to have lunch with my brother-in-law." "Where did you get the clothes?" Billy asked. "Ted bought me clothes so we could go to a nice restaurant," Sally said. "That was great. I had the best time of my life." "Ted should have taken you somewhere cheaper and brought food for everyone," Billy snapped. "He's some kind of friend. Why does he want to be your friend?" Sally snapped. "Ted has been nothing but nice to us since the day he started dating my sister. He always gives us money for this and that and takes us somewhere." "I love you, Billy, but how do you repay him?" "You repaid his generosity by ruining the one thing he valued most in the world, his marriage." "I think you think that because our marriage didn't mean much to you, Ellie didn't matter to him." "News about my husband, he is in a lot of pain right now. He tries to be tough and keep it together, but he's not the same anymore and may never be the same. It will never be the same here, even if he takes my sister back. So, if I were you, I wouldn't plan on showing up at home to go swimming or coming over on Sundays to watch football on that huge flat-screen TV. He's done with you." "Jesus, woman, you act like I did something crazy," Billy said. "All I did was sleep with Ellie. Everyone sleeps with Ellie, even Ted sleeps with Ellie. So why not me? Besides, there's nothing special about her to be so upset about. She doesn't even have breasts." "I know I've said too much, and I told you I was going to cut back, but he's going too far," Billy said. "Sally, Ted doesn't choose. He really loves Ellie and doesn't want to share her with anyone else. He really or perhaps love saw something special in her, and that was what I wanted for my little sister. I wanted her to have a man who put her first, and it's not all on you. I'm very angry at Ellie too because, as much as I love you three, you would not be half the man that is the head, and my sister may have just ruined her life because she couldn't keep her legs together." "What are you talking about, Sally?" Ellie squealed. Ellie, I know you love Ted, but honey, he's not like us. I know you think he's going to rage and drag you through the mud for a couple of weeks, but it's been almost a month. It's time for you to realize that you may not get him back. He really, and I mean really, loved you, and he knew you weren't a virgin when you met, but he expected you to be faithful to him after you got married. Was his intimacy with him bad? Sally asked. It was wonderful, Ellie said. I miss him so much I can't stand it. You have to help me, Sally. He won't even talk to me. If the intimate was so good, then why the hell did you sleep with Billy? Sally asked. Because she's a Billy snapped. She just wanted to stop me from watching football on that huge TV, and she's a stupid to boot. Remember how she taught her ABCs? Remember ABC, D, F, G, Hijcom, OP, means just kiss easily, can trouble start? She's not even shy because you don't even have to push her. I'm sure he doesn't know about it, does he? And I'm sure he doesn't even know she goes to intimate parties. Billy was on the verge of loftier, I could hear it in his voice. Ellie was silent except for a few sobs. It was clear that Billy enjoyed being a bully. All a guy has to do is walk up to her and rub her a little bit, and next thing you know, they'll be having a night. It could be any guy, any age, any race, fat or thin, short or tall. And if Ted is so smart with his job and all that, when he doesn't know he married an available girl, maybe someone should tell him. If she loves him so much, why didn't she stop? I think I'm going to have to tell him so he knows what's really been going on all these years. It's just unchristian to let a person be so in the dark, Ellie. Does he know you had a night with the priest at your wedding or his boss? If you tell him all this crap, I'll kill you in your sleep, Billy, Sally replied sharply. I won't let you ruin my little sister's life any more than you already have. And you, Ellie, get out of this trailer, drive to the car that your husband bought you, to that nice house that he bought for you, and wait until he takes you back. I'll keep trying to talk to him for you, but that's all I can do. I'll bet she's having a night with him, Ellie, Billy replied sharply. I bet that's why he bought her all those damn things. I bet they've been having an intimate ever since you introduced him to her. Now that he's found out about us, he's decided to replace your skinny fifth place with a real woman. Maybe so when he calls, he doesn't want to talk to you, his own wife, or me, his brother-in-law and friend. He only wants to talk to Sally. So Sally, Billy said mockingly, does he just want you, or does he want my kids too? Are these kids really mine? It's pretty weird that you took me to more show and air our dirty laundry for everyone to see, only for us to come home and find out that you're like that. She's a cheater like me and like your sister. And I thought I'd marry a good one. I could hear Sally quickly cross the room. The sound of her new heels on the trailer floor was undeniable. Then I heard the sound of flesh being struck. Billy, I love you, but you're an idiot. I've never cheated on you with anyone, not even Ted. And Ted loved Ellie so much that he practically cries for her as much as she cries for him, you know. Oh, what did you want to talk to me about over dinner? I'll tell you, Ellie. You already know that your husband has a lot of pride. He can't just take you back even though he wants to. He needs a reason for this, or an understanding of why you did. When you got married, you both made a lot of promises, and you broke one of the biggest promises. He just doesn't view night the same way you and Billy do. For him, it's not just something to do when you're bored. He sees it as a connection between two people who love each other. And for either of them to do it with someone else means breaking that connection. The funny thing about this is that it shows how wrong you can be about people. I love you more than anyone in the world, Ellie, including the fool here. And I know you always thought you got the worst deal because you don't have breasts, so you started sleeping with every guy who looked at you to prove something. But I was always jealous of you because I thought that maybe I got the breasts, but you got the brains. You just heard what your brother-in-law thinks about you, and what he thinks about me, and about Ted, the man you almost ruined your marriage for. Thinks of you as some easy woman that anyone can have, whenever they want. And I, his own wife, to him, I'm just some old something who takes care of his children. He's willing to trade me for you if Ted gives him money or a TV. And then there's Ted, Ellie. He is suffering a lot because of you. But now, I swear to you, he is standing on one leg on a slippery fence. It doesn't take much to make it fall in either direction. You need to find him. Don't stop calling him and begging this man to take you back. You know Ted would do anything for you. Make him move as far away from here and from us as possible. Do you know how great it was today? We went to the mall. He sat there and watched me try on clothes until we found a dress he wanted me to wear. Then he bought the dress, shoes, stockings, and underwear to go with it. And it's not because he bought me clothes that made it special. This is because he was interested in seeing me at my best and seeing me happy. And when people looked at me, I smiled because I knew they thought I had a man who treated me like I was special. You may be used to these things and don't appreciate them, but most women won't. You just don't know how happy you were. You don't know how lucky you are that he still loves you, and you're risking all of that to be used by Billy and a bunch of dumb trailer park guys who probably don't even remember your name. Please tell me you're not that stupid. Don't become one of those desperate old women in that trailer park who tries to hit on everyone she meets. Don't end up with a bunch of kids who don't even know who their fathers are. Don't be alone and lonely, dreaming of what you once had and just giving it up, darling. You don't know what you're losing until it's gone, and you're on the verge of losing your only chance at a great life. The only thing I can be proud of is that all my children have the same father, and no matter how bad Billy is, I know that in his own way, he loves me. And no matter how bad he is, he's not going to leave me. If you lose Ted, what will your life be like? I'm done preaching, honey, but I'll tell you one thing. If you and Ted break up for good, I'll go after him myself. Then I heard Billy laugh loudly. She won't be able to resist, he said. She has an intim with me every morning as soon as you leave to take the kids to school. While you were gone today, she did it with me, Tom, and that arrogant postman at the same time. She will never stop. It's funny, but I really believe that she loves old man Ted, but she just has an itch that takes more than one guy to scratch. So she might be loyal to Ted when he's around, but when he's not, it's a different story. And Ted is alone, the kind of guy who just wants a job and a lot of stuff, so he'll always work until he can't work anymore. If that little something wasn't on the strongest pregnancy pills there are, then who knows how many children she would have now? Mine, Ted's, and God knows who else. So if you love her as much as you claim, your best bet is to just side with her and help her hide it so Ted can continue to work for all of us. Then I heard Billy's laughter again and the sound of the trailer door opening and closing. Ellie, tell me that idiot wasn't telling the truth, Sally said. You didn't have a night with him again this morning, did you? Ellie was silent, and then she cried. I didn't think anyone would find out, she said. I just needed it. Ted hasn't touched me or been around me since the show. I couldn't help myself. Please don't tell him. I sank deeper into the soft leather seat of my Mustang. Tears flowed freely down my cheeks. I turned off the little receiver box and disconnected it from my Mustang's auxiliary input. By now, you've probably realized that the whole dinner with Sally was set up. The lining of the dress and even the shoes I bought for Sally had microphones built into them. I hoped she would do what I had planned for her return home and talk to Ellie about what we did today. I was hoping Ellie would give me some hint about how she felt about me and what she had done. I was hoping that I could make her a little jealous by buying clothes for her sister. The dress, bugs, and lunch cost me less than hiring a private detective, but my grand plan blew up in my face and hurt me far more than even more show. I looked at the woman on the next bar stool to see her reaction. She looked at me with her mouth open. I put a 5 on the bar and started to get up. The bowling alley should have been open by now. Wait, you can't just leave. You have to tell me what you did next. What are you going to do now? You have to tell me how it ended, she begged. I sighed and sat down again. Well, Lisa, she quickly prompted. Well, Lisa, not every story has an ending. This isn't a cheap romance or a free intimate story on the internet. Sometimes you just gotta keep moving until the pain goes away. But I'll tell you what I did. I drove straight to the trailer park. I was only about a mile away because these little bugs don't transmit much further. I opened the trailer door, and as soon as Billy stood up, I extended my hand as if I wanted to shake his hand. When he extended his hand, I punched him in the jaw as hard as I could. He fell hard. While he was on the floor, I hit him in the groin as hard as I could, and then did it again for good measure. Sally and Ellie were too shocked to do anything. I turned around and pulled out the receiver from my pocket. I walked over to the trailer sink and plugged the receiver into the cheap stereo they were using as a stereo. The sound of their own voices made them sit up and listen. The only thing distracting was the make a sound of Billy, who was still squirming on the floor. "Sally, you're too good for this hell and these people. I know you won't do this, but I'm offering you a chance right now. You and your children are coming with me." "We will never look back," I said. Sally shook her head silently. Ellie started screaming as I turned to leave. "What about us, Ted? I love you. I will leave with you. I will change. Please don't leave me, don't divorce me. We can fix this, we must. I won't let other women, including my sister, approach you. I will gouge out their eyes with my bare hands," Ellie said desperately. I said sadly, "Ellie, the worst part about it all is that I still love you even after everything I heard on this recording. But I also hate you for the way you treated me." Sally said it best, "You don't know what you've lost until it's gone." But she was just saying it to the wrong person. You knew what you had. You had a man who loved you and was faithful to you and did everything he could to make you happy. I say it was because I left. I'll never go back again. Sally was talking about me. I didn't know what I had until it was gone because I thought I had a wife who loved me and only me. I thought I had a love that would last my whole life. But that's not what I had, is it? And I didn't know it until I had lost every bit of that love, burned away in the blink of an eye by what I heard on that recording. I won't tell you what I had that you are, because I'm too damn cute to even say that. But you're gone forever. I'm serious. Even if I'm just angry and hurt now and later discover that I still love you, it won't matter because I'll never be able to trust you. And without trust, we cannot have a marriage. But don't worry about divorce. On the way here, I called my lawyer and told him to call off the divorce. I heard them both breathe a sigh of relief as they heard that I had decided not to divorce her. Then I smiled coldly and started talking again. You don't deserve a divorce. I'm going to do it trailer style and just move away and start over somewhere else. Sooner or later, I'll meet another woman and fall in love again, but I won't marry her because of you. I lost faith in women in general. Besides, it's better this way. In case of divorce, you would have rights. There would be division of property, alimony. When I leave you nothing. You won't even get the house since it's in my name. All you get is the view of me walking away from your stupid fifth place. And I just walked out of the trailer, got into my Mustang, and drove off. Sally immediately started trying to contact me. She told me that she thought Ellie, like Billy, was suffering from night addiction and maybe they could get help with treatment. I told her not to worry because I'm just not interested in a wife who needs to be taught how not to cheat on me or one that needs to be taught to keep her feet together. Over the next few days, Ellie showed up at my place of work and even found my house. It got to the point where I told my lawyer to file for a restraining order. Ellie ignored him. In one embarrassing moment, she held onto my leg while the police tried to pull her away from me. I realized that the only way to truly separate myself from her was to leave the state. So, I quit my job and began the process of starting a new life. There were a few things I needed to do before I left town. I know that to all you legal experts, what I did was illegal as hell, but I didn't care. I still don't care. I didn't leave Ellie a penny. I even burned all things. I left Sally a few thousand for emergencies with her or her children and an anonymous email address so she could contact me from time to time. But I left town and haven't really looked back. I don't stay in one place long enough for her to track me. I have a decent amount of capital from selling houses and my assets. When I move to a city or town, I easily find a job as an engineer. If not, I'll just leave. I rolled over my retirement account into a self-directed IRA so I can still contribute to it. Someday, I'll get comfortable and find someone, but probably not until my soul stops hurting for Ellie. Sometimes I hear from Sally, and it makes me suffer again when she mentions Ellie. Billy is now completely faithful to Sally, he has no choice. He suffers from erectile dysfunction due to my well-aimed blows. He still doesn't have a job. Ellie, according to Sally, still loves me and still wants me back. She appeared on Moore's show again, claiming to be pregnant and trying to find the father of her child. She wasn't actually pregnant, she just wanted the show to use its resources to try and find me. I try to stay under the radar because these TV shows have a lot of resources, including private investigators, and I don't want them to find me and give her any information about my location. Sometimes I stay with a woman for a few nights or longer, but I still haven't found anyone who can take Ellie's place in my heart. I'll probably love that skinny, flat-chested trailer park something for the rest of my life. But I can't live with her or be around her. So for now, it's just me and my Mustang exploring the USA, one city at a time. Even now, a year later, every time I see some skinny redhead, a tear rolls down my cheek and I know I'm still not over it. I'm sure by now she's probably slept with half the trailer park in half the town. I know this is not the ending you wanted or expected. It's actually not a very good ending at all. If you want a better one, you can write it yourself. Lisa threw her head back and finished her beer. She was an attractive woman with long dark hair and crystal clear blue eyes. "You're definitely not what I expected," she said, "but you'll fit." She pulled out her cell phone, gun, and badge from her purse as she dialed the number on the phone. I glanced at the icon. She wasn't a cop, she was a licensed private investigator. "Yes, this is Lisa," she said into the phone. It was another dead end. "He's not in this town. There was a guy here in a Mustang, but it's a different color, a different year, and the guy's too old to be him. You know what, Marty? I'm tired of this. I don't want to spend the rest of my life tracking down other people's spouses. It's time for me to find mine. So I'm leaving. Tell the redhead and the people on the show that I think this guy will never show up. She's wasting Moore's money and her life trying to find him." Lisa left the bar, leaving her gun, badge, and phone where they were. "Let's look at this Mustang," she said. I nodded and smiled at her as we headed out. It was weeks later that I realized I was in trouble. I hadn't thought about Ellie once since Lisa and I left the bar. She just smiled and said, "Maybe the reason you don't have the end of the story with Ellie is because you missed it. The end of Ted and Ellie came when you left the Moore show. Your marriage ended, everything else was just an epilogue. You haven't been looking for the end of the story of Ted and Ellie for a long time. What you were looking for is the beginning of the story of Ted and Lisa. This story is about you and me, and about our future family. And this story will last our entire lives. What do you think of our story today? In my opinion, the man did exactly the right thing without letting his revenge slip. What's your opinion? Let me know in the comments. See you in the comments.